Do you love books? How about books that are mysterious? Many of these books contain treasures that cannot be found elsewhere, like this old book that will make you question everything you've been told about the origins of humans. Who wrote the book and what exactly does it say about where humans come from? Join us as we examine this 2,000-year-old Bible book chapter filled with terrifying knowledge of the human race and other mysterious books. Number 15. Book of Enoch. Many people know about the story of Enoch from the Bible. You might even know people named Enoch, including Alfred Alfie Enoch, who played Dean Thomas in the Harry Potter films. However, there is a mysterious book written by the same Enoch from the Bible. Apparently, he preferred to have his own book despite appearing at the beginning of one of the most popular books ever. So what is special or mysterious about the Book of Enoch? First, many Christians do not believe the book is inspired like the rest of the Bible. Only some of the Ethiopian Orthodox sect accept the authenticity of this book, but the content is even more bewildering. Enoch was the great-grandfather to Noah, famous for building an ark that saved 7 people from a global rain flood that killed everything unlucky enough to be locked out. The book identifies the character as the writer himself. Enoch was a son to Jared. The Book of Enoch actually exists in 2 parts. One is the first Enoch, also known as the Ethiopic Book of Enoch, and the second is the second Enoch, known as the Slavonic Book of Enoch or the Book of the Secrets of Enoch. Some scholars have claimed the full book is extant only in the Ge'ez language, with Aramaic fragments from the Dead Sea Scrolls and a few Greek and Latin fragments. However, there are opposing opinions that it was originally written in Hebrew and/or Aramaic. But one puzzle nobody has ever answered about the book is that if Enoch literally wrote it, how did it survive the great flood of Noah? Enoch's personal story is quite interesting. Enoch's dad, Jared, became a father at age 162 and lived for another 800 years. But that was not the case with Enoch. The writer fathered Methuselah at the relatively young age of 65 and then only lived 300 more years. From the Bible, he was reportedly carted away to heaven without dying to help him avoid seeing terrible things being done by humans and hybrid humans, much on the latter shortly. Enoch's life obviously pleased God, as he was said to have walked with the Almighty. The godly trait ended up with him being snatched off the earth suddenly in the year 987 at the young age of 365. Yes, youthful because his contemporaries lived really long, some nearly 1,000 years, so you can imagine Enoch would have felt shortchanged a bit. Scholars note that Enoch was the 7th generation and lived 365 years, thus connecting him with solar cycles, and some gave that as the argument for using solar calendars. The Book of Enoch relates his journeys between the place of God and the earth. He flew with the angels and saw the rivers and mountains and the very ends of the earth from above. That must have been cool. He witnessed the angels falling from grace, the Watchers. They took wives from among humans and bred evil giants or Nephilims who would consume the earth with their sheer wickedness were they not stopped. Then Enoch was named the scribe to keep track and to report back and forth. The punishment of those fallen angels was decreed, and Enoch reported it. That must have taken lots of courage. He was shown the functions of the heavenly hosts and the order of the planets and stars. He was so amazed he decided to keep a record of it for posterity. Meanwhile, some scholars have linked the story of Enoch with various Sumerian reports. The Bible also mentions the Nephilim in Genesis. And number 14 is the Red Book by Carl Jung. You might be tempted to ask what is special about the Red Book, as the author is known was written in the last century and in a known place. However, the circumstances surrounding the book make it stand out. The book was hidden for decades, even after the death of the author, before being published. Why would the author and his family try to hide the book? The author of the Red Book is Carl Jung, a psychologist. The author himself was a fascinating character. Mentored by Freud himself, Jung broke off from Freud to chart his own path. He developed the theory of human behavior, generally referred to as Jungian psychology. The Jungian theory puts more emphasis on the spiritual side of our inner psyche. It also teaches that all of humanity shares a collective unconscious. Mind blown, right? Jung also believed in the power of archetypes, that is, our myths and symbols are universal and innate and serve a greater purpose in helping us learn from each of our stages in life. Jung started writing the Red Book in his late 30s. The book is an eclectic mixture of a journal and a mythological novel that takes the reader through Jung's fantasies. They were hallucinations he self-induced to try and get to the core of his unconscious. And as a theorist, he wanted to document his 16-year journey, so he wrote down everything he experienced, saw, and felt. Jung declined to publish it as the book could affect his reputation as a psychologist. So for decades, the Red Book has been wrapped in mystery because it's never been published. It was thought that only one copy of the book existed, locked in a Swiss safe deposit box by the heirs to C.G. Jung's estate, until they were convinced to publish it. And number 13 is the Rohones Codex, and we can tell you for free that this book can drive you insane with frustration. This 448-page book filled with illustrations has no known author, known publication date, and no known language. It doesn't even have a title. It is named after the Hungarian city of Rohones, where it was kept until it was donated to the Academy in 1838 by Count Gustav Botjani from his Rohones estate, along with 30,000 other books in his possession. However, if you think of checking the town out on the map, it has been renamed Recknitz and is now in Austria, but close to the Hungarian border. The codex measures 12 by 10 centimeters, and each page contains between 9 and 14 rows of symbols. The total number of different symbols used in the book is around 800, about 10 times higher than any known alphabet. Most of the symbols are used with a little repetition, so the symbols in the codex might not be an alphabet, but instead a syllabary or be logographic in nature, such as Chinese characters. Accompanying the cryptic text are some 90 pages of illustrations that include religious, laic, and military scenes. The crude illustrations seem to indicate an environment where Christians, pagan, and Muslim religions coexist, as the symbols of the cross, crescent, and sun swastika are all present. However, the images give absolutely no clue as to the meaning of the text. Some people have theorized that the Rohones Codex was just a hoax or prank by an unknown author. The number 12 spot belongs to the Codex Gigas, aka the Devil's Bible. The book appears to have been completed with the help of the devil under very strange circumstances. The modern-day story of the Codex Gigas began in July 1648 during the final clashes of the 30 Years' War. The Swedish army looted the city of Prague, and one of the treasures they stole and brought with them when they returned home was the Codex Gigas. This book is famous for being the largest medieval book in the world. It is 36 inches tall, 20 inches wide, and 8.7 inches thick, and weighs 165 pounds. This is not your average book you carry around in a backpack. The Devil's Bible contains 310 pages, made from vellum from the hide of 160 donkeys. Originally, the Devil's Bible contained 320 pages, but at some point in time, the last 10 pages were cut out and removed from the book. The Devil's Bible has been given its name because of a full-size portrait of the devil, and the author would know what the devil looked like, as he was said to have sold his soul to the devil in exchange for help finishing the book. The writer allegedly completed the book in just one day for a job estimated to take 20 years. No wonder the price was his very soul. However, if you need help with that term paper, you know where to turn. At number 11 is the Voynich manuscript. The Voynich manuscript was first discovered in 1912 when it was purchased by a Polish antique books dealer named Wilfrid Voynich. The manuscript contains 250 pages written in a strange language or with weird, indecipherable codes. Scholars and scientists have had their turns trying to interpret the text of the manuscript and have come up with numerous theories as to the content and purpose of the book, but all these theories so far have been discarded because of the holes in the stories. The mysterious book was thought to have been written in the 15th or 16th century. It contains striking illustrations depicting various animals, people, astrology, zodiac symbols, herbs, and maps. One scientist, the German Egyptologist Rainer Hannig, has claimed to have figured out the code. He said the manuscript had not been written in an Indo-European language, but in a Semitic language such as Aramaic, Arabic, or Hebrew. The baseline is even he couldn't be sure. Other researchers have tried to use modern decrypting technologies to crack the meaning, but nothing has worked so far. The Voynich manuscript is still a mystery whose origins and meaning have been eroded by the sands of time. Perhaps this is another ancient hoax by a mischievous ancient author who had too much time on his hands. At number 10 is the Book of Soiga. The Book of Soiga, also known as Aldaria, is a 16th century book about magic, astrology, incantations, and demonology. This is another case of an unknown author. However, the book first landed in the hands of an ancient scholar, John Dee, in the early 1580s. Dee was quite influential and a master of all trades while working for Queen Elizabeth in multiple capacities. The Book of Soiga would become the bane of Dee's existence as he spent his entire life trying to decipher the book's secrets. And that should not have been difficult, as the majority of the book was written in regular Latin, which was easy to read. However, the Book of Soiga contained several paragraphs describing conjurations, confusing magical formulas, protection spells, and hierarchies of angels and demons. Did you say you need a refresher on these subjects? In the end, Dee never managed to decipher the last 36 pages of the Book of Soiga, which contained 36 tables. The book was lost after his death in 1609. However, it turned up in 1994 in two different locations, one in the British Library and another in the Bodleian Library. And still to this day, the mystery around the Book of Soiga has not been cleared up. Who wrote it, for what, and what do those 36 tables and their magical words mean? At number 9 is the Codex Seraphinianus. If there is a list of books that do not deserve to exist, the Codex Seraphinianus will top it. If you've seen the meme of two people turning into a crocodile while being intimate, you have arrived at the origin. Other contents of this seemingly pointless book are fish eyes from some weird creature floating on the surface of the sea staring at the reader, and a man riding his own coffin. If you try to make sense of the book using the written text, you hit a wall here too. The handwritten words deceptively appear ancient, but they are unintelligible. Like a guide to an alien world, Codex Seraphinianus is 300 pages of descriptions and explanations for an imaginary existence, all in its own unique and absolutely unreadable alphabet, complete with thousands of drawings and graphs. This book is not even ancient, as it was first published in the 1980s. Its author is also known and lives in Italy. However, pending the time the author and we somehow make sense of it, it remains proof that humans shouldn't have too much spare time. At number 8 sits the Popol Vuh. This text is also referred to as the Book of the People. It was a Maya document that talks about, surprise surprise, ancient Mayan culture and mythology. The text has been traced back to the mid-1500s, and you can read it today if you can understand the Mayan language Quiche. Popol Vuh educates its readers on the world's creation, the life and times of God, and the migration and settlement of the Quiche people up to the time of the Spanish conquest in the 16th century CE. The book also talks about a pair of hero twins who will eventually transform into the sun and the moon. According to the Popol Vuh, there was only sky and sea at first before the creators of Earth got to work. They produced the animals, men and women in that order. The book was first found in the 1700s by a priest in Guatemala. He both copied the original Quiche text, which can no longer be found, and translated it into Spanish. His work is now in the Newberry Library in Chicago. At number 7 is another bewildering book known as the Urantia Book. The Urantia Book is a philosophical, scientific, and spiritual book that describes the development of life on Earth until the death of Jesus of Nazareth. Fewer books have polarized scholars and experts more than this book. The book originated in Chicago, Illinois, and was first published in 1955. Two prominent people were involved with its publication, William S. Sadler and his wife, Lena. William was a psychiatrist who understudied Sigmund Freud and became a renowned psychic debunker, exposing the fraudulent methods used by many spiritual mediums. Lena was a doctor of women's health issues. The Urantia is divided into a foreword and 4 parts. Each deals with subjects such as philosophy, religion, geology, cosmology, and ontology. Urantia is actually the name for planet Earth, or Planet 606, according to the authors. The book's religious inclination is Christian in nature. It talks about the Trinity, including Jesus. It also mentions angels, particularly the seraphim and cherubim, Angel Gabriel, Satan, Lucifer, Beelzebub, and Caligastia. The Urantia provides numerous references to cosmological principles and events, though the numbers often don't equate with those of modern science, like claiming the universe is 987 billion years old. At number 6 is the Kybalion. That might sound like the name of a character in a video game or location in a fantasy novel, but we assure you it is a secret-laden body of work. And nope, this was no ancient manuscript. It was published in 1908 by the Yogi Publication Society. It serves as a foundation of the Hermetic doctrine and its 7 ancient principles. The content, however, has existed for a long time. The principles described in the book are great secrets that have been passed down from the lip to ear but finally put into writing. The origin of the principles was Hermes Trismegistus, an ancient sage who claimed to have received his knowledge from Egyptian gods. The knowledge in the book has always been maintained with strict secrecy and has always been a piece of the occult. You may think of religion or any black magic at the sound of the word occult, but it simply denotes kept secret. In the book, the three initiates describe the knowledge and principles related to mentalism and human experience. It also touches on how to influence the mind and change it according to your will. People that have read the Kybalion claim that it has a great deal of information on the underpinnings of the universe that is still not known by most of humanity. The number 5 spot belongs to Ripley's Scroll. Do you want to turn stones into gold? Many people do, but they don't have the manual for converting ordinary rocks into precious stones. However, today is your lucky day if you nurse such ambitions. The Ripley's Scroll is an alchemist textbook that can guide you when making the Philosopher's Stone. The Ripley Scroll dates from 1624 and is so rare that only one copy of it exists in private hands. This scroll of magic opens with a picture of the alchemist, the creator figure. He holds the philosopher's egg, which is the glass flask in which you make all your experiments. Its handles bear this inscription: "You must make water of earth, and the earth of the air, and the air of the fire, and the fire of the earth." The moon unites the red stone, the white stone, the elixir of life. The moon is balanced on the figure of the Serpent of Arabia, a dragon biting its own tail, depicting just how badass it is, and blood from the dragon's belly spills down onto a globe below. Produced by a heraldic painter that went by the name Leonard Smethley in Manchester, the scroll has been labeled wonderful, colorful, exotic, and wacky. Number 4. Sarajevo Haggadah. This mysterious book has Jewish origins. During the yearly Passover, Jewish families take turns reading from a book known as a Haggadah. They are not only holy texts, but instructional, so authors have taken many liberties with them. One of the most extraordinary is the Sarajevo Haggadah. It consists of 142 leaves of extraordinarily thin bleached calfskin vellum, and measures 16.5 centimeters by 22.8 centimeters, or 6.5 by 9 inches in its current form. Nobody knows the original measurements of the Sarajevo Haggadah. The Sarajevo Haggadah has 3 parts. The first part spans 34 pages containing a total of 69 illuminated miniatures. They are centered on biblical events from the creation to slavery in Egypt to the succession of Joshua after the death of Moses. The second part contains 50 pages in medieval Sephardic script. The third part contains poetry by the most prominent Jewish poets of the Middle Ages. The Sarajevo Haggadah is displayed permanently at the National Museum of Bosnia and Herzegovina in Sarajevo. It escaped destruction at the hands of the Nazis during World War II when the Muslim National Museum librarian Dervis Korkut hid the Haggadah in a countryside mosque. The Haggadah once again escaped destruction when, during the Yugoslavian Civil War, it was moved to an underground bank vault after being thrown on the floor as junk during a break-in at the National Museum. At number 3 is the book that was found in a 300-year-old shipwreck. Most of us can't locate the books we used in secondary school, and that's okay. Paper doesn't last forever, especially when it comes in contact with water. But that is not the case with this mysterious book recovered from a shipwreck 300 years old. How did the book escape being destroyed by water? These 16 tiny scraps managed to survive being washed away by being stuffed into the chamber of a breech cannon. So sodden and discolored was the mess that the conservators, when they first found it while cleaning the cannon in 2016, assumed it was cloth. Understandably, the scraps were very delicate, but what could a book that survived so long in a shipwreck contain? As they were working to preserve them, the team figured out that just 7 of these 16 had a few legible words of text printed on them. They made out the words fathom and south, but it was one word in particular that led to the book's identification: Hilo. It referred to the Spanish settlement of Hilo on the Peruvian coast and contained the adventures of a seaman named Edward Cook. At number 2 is Nostradamus' lay prophecies. Are you anxious about the future? Well, knowing what will happen help calm you down. Few people can tell you what will happen in the future, except if they are Nostradamus. He penned a book named Les Prophéties, and people claim this man from the past is helping us see the future, even up to today and for years to come. Les Prophéties is a famous book full of prophecies written by Michel de Nostradamus in the 16th century. He was a Frenchman who claimed he could predict future events and mentioned them in his book. One of his best works was Les Prophéties, which was first published in 1555. Incredibly, the book has never been out of print since his death. Nostradamus has been credited with predicting major historical events like the rise of Adolf Hitler, Napoleon's conquests, the French Revolution, the death of Henry II, the Great Fire of London, the 9/11 attacks, the slaying of JFK, and other major disasters. All the prophecies in Les Prophéties are written in 4 lines of rhyming verse, and it's your job to figure out their meanings. Here is a sample that people believed predicted the rise of Hitler. From the very depths of the west of Europe, a young child will be born of poor people. He who by his tongue will seduce a great troop, his fame will increase towards the realm of the east. However, not everybody believes in Nostradamus' skill of seeing into the distant future. Many scholars claim that his predictions are merely a material of misinterpretations or mistranslations. Others claim the correct predictions were simply guesses or were so vague they could have applied to any event. At number 1 is the 1500-year-old Bible. Most people have at least heard about the Bible. However, we are not talking about that Bible, as it is way older. This Bible was found in Turkey, and many Christians would rather not want to hear about it. It was written by Saint Barnabas and actually excluded from being part of the Bible that many people are familiar with today. The book, more than 1,500 years old, is valued at $28 million. This Bible adds a twist to the story of Jesus by claiming that he didn't die. Instead of Jesus, Judas was the one killed, and Jesus ascended to heaven while he was still alive. The book also does not acknowledge Jesus as the Son of God, but only as a prophet who spread the word of God. Jesus is not the only character to have been transformed by this book. It also calls Apostle Paul an impostor. This is rather interesting, as St. Barnabas was an associate of Apostle Paul in the popular Bible. Would this mean that St. Barnabas was forced by Apostle Paul to write a different story about Jesus? No one can say, but this is an interesting aspect that sort of puts Christianity in a good light from biblical events, but other religions are overlooked, such as Islam. Let's hear which of these mysterious books you find the most intriguing in the comments section below.